Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon got into the Book of Enoch, discussed it on the podcast they did this week, and it was pretty enlightening and pretty exciting to hear that these guys getting into it because it raises a lot of questions. I don't know about you. For me, it does. I want to know what happened. Why was it excluded? But this is a notable exception. Despite its universal rejection by Jewish authorities and mainstream Christian denominations, it was preserved in its entirety by the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, which still includes it in the official biblical canon. All right, but we're going to take a look at Joe Rogan and Tim Dillon discussing this.
Is in the same Dead Sea Scrolls as they found the Book of Isaiah,
Totally.
the same collection
Right.
of these religious texts. And it's all about how the Watchers came down and mated with the daughters of men and chose them as wives and then created this race of beings called the Nephilim, which were giants that ruled the earth. Like, this is in the Bible. They talk about the Nephilim. In the Bible.
In the Bible.
They talk about Enoch. Like, he's
Right.
referenced in the Bible.
Right.
But the Book of Enoch, the stories that are in the Book of Enoch are fucking bananas. Like, completely bananas. And the only reason why it's not in the Bible, a bunch of rabbis decided that it didn't align with the Torah. The Torah or the Talmud, I forget which one. But they decided, like, this contradicts some of the stories that are in other religious texts, so we're going to keep that one out.
Interesting.
Because it was a collection of these things that's all together.
Who are these rabbis?
Exactly.
Just that itself. So I've heard a lot of different reasons why it's excluded. I'd also heard that because there's a very strong depiction of this Son of Man, this figure in the future who would come, and it almost exactly represents. It looks like Jesus. So maybe that was also taken into account, that why it wasn't included. But here's some primary reasons why it was excluded. A lack of original Hebrew canonization. The ancient Jewish community and later rabbis did not accept it as inspired scripture, so it was never included in the Hebrew Bible. It was also not part of the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Hebrew scriptures used in Jesus' time. I don't even know how to say that word. I feel like Evan Almighty. Pseudepigraphal authorship. They don't think it's the same author. That it probably wasn't Enoch. I mean, when we're thinking Enoch, the actual Enoch, that's before Noah. That's before the flood in this world. So it's very rare that it. But could there have been a tradition that was passed down and it was kind of kept together? And because the authors of even the New Testament, they quote from the Book of Enoch. And they allude to it very strongly because we can't get away from this event is even talked about in the actual Bible, in Genesis, with right before Noah's flood, that the sons of God come and mate with the daughters of men, and they produce it says that the Nephilim were around in those days. So there was some type of event that actually happened. I do think that it was actual disobedient sons of God, which we think of as angels, that they did mate with actual women, and produce this offspring. And that was why God brought the judgment of the flood. And so, and even in the New Testament, it's talked about. The New Testament authors bring it up and they allude to it. They talk about the angels that left their proper abode. And so they are kept in chains of darkness, held to that great day. And I think that even when we talk about demons, I no longer just see them as just fallen angels. I do see them as kind of the disembodied spirits of the Nephilim, like remaining, because they're not fully man, they're not fully angel. They don't really have a place to go, so they just kind of, since the time of the flood, they're still wandering here, and then they kind of embody people. That's what is happening of demons, what we think of as demons. But it's certainly an interesting way of thinking about it. A lot of people, when they come into the faith, they're not ready for this. But once you actually get entrenched in the Bible, it's even there. So it's not even just in the Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch just blows it all open. All right, we'll leave it at that. Let me know what you all think. And I hope you all have a great Friday and great rest of your weekend. See y'all.